Hi, it's Roy Chambers with the Home Source team at Keller Williams Realty, and today I would like to talk about the question that a lot of people ask me is, do I qualify for a short sale? And every bank is going to have a different answer to that, of course, based on your situation, case by case. But there are some rumors and some myths and some things that you can read on the internet that quite frankly just aren't true. So I thought I would try to talk about what a perfect short sale used to look like, what we used to classify as a textbook case for a short sale versus the reality of what's happening now in today's market. And again, some of the things that I'm talking about as far as reality are going to be different from lender to lender. So in a perfect case, and just by definition, short sale requires that you're upside down in the house. That's a pretty easy one, and you probably wouldn't even be watching this if that wasn't your situation. So number two qualification to do a short sale is that you have a hardship. In a perfect situation, you would have something that had changed financially in your life, or something that had happened to you that made it no longer feasible for you to keep the house, either financially or just it's in the wrong location, or could be a dozen different reasons as to why. Maybe you're getting a divorce. All sorts of different possibilities. Even health issues could play into fact there. So here's the reality. What is a hardship? So on the one hand, we have perfection of, you have one. On the reality part, we have, okay, let's define a hardship. Is a hardship, I got my hours cut and I don't quite make as much money as I used to? Is it that my bills went up? Is it that I hurt my leg and I can no longer go up the stairs and there's no place for me to get in and out of my house without causing physical pain or injury? All sorts of things can classify as a hardship. So that one, to some degree, while you are going to potentially have to have one, some lenders don't even care if there is one. And oftentimes it's the mortgage insurance company that actually has some interest as to whether there's a real hardship involved. So let's talk about qualification number three. Qualification number three is that you're insolvent. And by insolvent, I just mean that you make less than what you spend. Now, that may sound kind of odd because obviously if you have $1,000 and you're spending $1,200, eventually somebody is going to complain about that. Somebody's going to cut you off, whether it be the credit card company or one of your other creditors says, hey, you haven't paid the electric bill or the doctor bill, and they're just going to cut you off. And the reality is most people live so close to their means that this one is not normally too difficult. And insolvent is in part determined by what you spend, of course, as well as what you make. But when we get into financial straits, what happens is a lot of people cut their expenses back to a point that's unrealistic. They stop maintaining the car, they stop going to the dentist, they stop taking the animals to the vet, they stop spending things, they stop spending on things like clothes, other things that are somewhat discretionary. Well, eventually that catches up with you. You can't not spend money at the dentist forever, or you're going to wind up with a mouthful of stuff that requires even more attention, and you could have serious health effects. So when we're having people work with the issue of insolvency, we often tell them to put down a realistic set of expenses. Some of those you may or may not actually be spending at this moment, but it's important that that be a sustainable budget as well as a reflection of your accurate expenses. So insolvent is an important criteria, and in a perfect short sale you would be insolvent. I will tell you that some lenders don't care whether you are or are not insolvent. However, that being said, the less financially the more financially worse off you are, and I'm not quite sure how to say this, but the more financially dire your situation looks, the less likely they are to ask you for some sort of contribution when you're trying to get the house out of your name and sell it off to somebody else, or when you're trying to give it back to them, if that's the option that you're looking at. So insolvency is important because it's going to lessen the chance that they're going to ask you for some sort of contribution at closing, or perhaps even a promissory note. All of those things are possibilities as you go through the course of a short sale. So last criteria is, in a perfect world, you would actually be behind on your mortgage. In a perfect short sale, and oftentimes when you're trying to get a loan modification, they'll say, hey, we can't help you unless you're at least a month behind or 2 months behind. Well, that's a little bit of a myth too. So let's talk about reality. The reality is that the standard is supposed to be imminent risk of default. So if you are in a situation where, hey, I'm not behind, but the only reason I'm not behind is because I'm raiding this money that I got, or I'm borrowing money from my parents, there's a limit to how long that can go on. And at some point, that is what we're talking about with imminent risk. This property will be in default if something doesn't change, because this is not sustainable. So perfection versus reality. Again, it's going to depend on the lender, it's going to depend on your situation, and it's going to depend on how we position you, or the realtor that you're choosing positions you with that lender. So I hope you found this helpful. As always, if you ever have any questions, we're here for you. Email, phone, whatever works for you. We would love to interact with you and answer any specific questions that you have. Have a great day, and I hope this has been helpful for you.